Hello, everyone. Welcome to Progress Junior Golf with Live Sport Now and the England Golf Young Ambassadors. My name's Steve Jackson, and this is Ian Waterhouse.
Hello, everybody. It's coming home. It's coming home. I know it's nothing to do with golf. I don't care. I know we've just drawn 1-1. Sorry if you're about to wanted to watch this a little bit later, but we've just drawn 1-1 with Denmark. But it's not a bad result. Performance was terrible, but don't worry about that. It's still coming home. We're top of the group. Who cares about the performance so far? It only matters in a knockout stage. So right now, top of the group, football's coming home. Let's get on to the golf, Steve.
Yes. Welcome to the football podcast here. Now, we are going to be talking about golf. We're going to be talking about junior golf because this podcast is all about junior golf. It's about getting...
Not football.
Not football at all. No, well, it might get mentioned again. You never know. Particularly actually with the guest that we've got coming on, because it's someone who's got a little bit of association with football. The person who he worked with, you may remember, wore a football shirt for one of the tournaments which he was in, which went down like a lead balloon when he did do that a few years ago. But anyway, now this podcast is about golf. It's about the next generation of golf. It's about getting more boys and girls playing the game of golf. This is show number 60. 60.
Can you believe that? 60.
Absolutely.
Yes. Unbelievable.
We're doing pretty well. And within those 59 shows we've done previously, we've done lots of subjects whereby we've covered specifically out and out junior golf. We've done ones we've done ones on tour golf. We've done ones on various other things as well. This is a bit of a combination one, but this is probably one of the most interesting ones which I think will be that we've ever done, because we're going to be talking about caddying. And we are going to touch upon caddying in junior golf because you may be surprised the fact that you can actually caddy in junior golf. Some people think, well, that doesn't happen. Well, of course it does happen, because you tend to have parents caddying for juniors and things like that. So we'll be touching about that a bit later on. But we need an expert. And Ian, are you an expert on caddying? Have you ever caddied?
No. I played yesterday. And do you know who caddied for me?
Yes. I have actually caddied before, and I've also had caddies for me. So I've done a little bit of both kind of thing, and it is quite good fun, I must admit. It's quite interesting watching some good players play and carrying their bags for them. And equally so, it's quite good when you do have a proper caddy with you, kind of thing. But we need to have a proper caddy on, not just me. And
do you know what my advice is when I do caddy?
Yeah,
I say caddy. Every single hole, just get the driver out.
Actually, believe it or not, that's one of my caddies did say that to me once. He said, "Don't bother with the iron, just get a driver out." I think he probably realised after 3 or 4 holes the irons are just as bad as the driver. So at least if you hit a driver, and it does actually go straight, we're a bit closer to the green. That was his advice to me.
Yeah.
So there's method in the madness there, but no. Right, but we've got a proper caddy on, because we've got one of the world's best caddies. This is the person who has caddied at the biggest tournaments in the world. And we're talking the biggest, as in the Open Championship, the US Masters, the US PGA, the US Open, the Ryder Cup, because we have got Terry Mundy, and he, for many, many years, was the caddy for Ian Poulter, of course. Fantastic record in the Ryder Cup. There he is on the left-hand side with Poult there. I did mention about football earlier. You may remember a few years ago, I haven't got the photo of him, but there was the time whereby Ian Poulter did wear an Arsenal shirt. I think it was one of them times whereby the Arsenal shirt had a collar, so he thought, I can get away with this kind of thing, and he did. But there were some photos there, Terry, obviously with the Ryder Cup, and Poult's got a fantastic record with the Ryder Cup at the Postman, as we well know him as, of course. So fascinating talking to him. It was a pretty good interview, but we covered a lot about caddying. And actually, this podcast has been planned for a long time, and regulars to the Progress Junior Golf podcast will know that we mentioned this on a few occasions, the fact that we were going to be doing a podcast on caddying. But actually, it's kind of come up something this week. Did you watch the US Open at the weekend, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I watched bits of it. I had a busy week, actually. I was at Silverstone on Saturday, Sunday, and then of course I watched the England game, and then I turned over to watch the last sort of 9 holes or so of the US Open. Paul Rory.
Exactly.
But that's what you get for Simon Live.
Yes. Now, this is the point, actually, because Ian Carter is the BBC golf correspondent. He wrote a fascinating column piece on the BBC website, and he was talking about Rory McIlroy, and he was talking about the fact that his boyhood friend Harry Diamond has been his caddy for many years, but hasn't actually caddied for him winning a major tournament in those 10 years. I mean, they've won all sorts of things: World Golf Championships, Players' Championships. Obviously, been very successful in the Ryder Cup. Won season-long titles both on both sides of the Atlantic. So he's obviously done fantastically well as his caddy. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, Ian Poulter raised the point about whether it's something whereby he needs to look at possibility of changing his caddy and bringing in a more experienced caddy. I think if I use some of the phrases which Ian Poulter said, many contend that he should have a known, experienced bagman at his side, someone who simply would not allow a meltdown such as the one that we witnessed in North Carolina at the US Open. Now, that might be a little bit strong, but he's got a point there in the sense of, is the caddy helping him? Perhaps a more experienced caddy might help him in those scenarios. And these are the
hang on, Steve. Okay, I know I know this has nothing to do with juniors, but it does have an effect on juniors as they grow up. Rory McIlroy, I like Rory, by the way. This isn't a dig out Rory, by the way, because he's achieved far more than I could ever do in the game. However, he's not a rookie, Rory McIlroy. No. He's not a 21-year-old. He's not Ludwig Aberg, who's just starting to make a name for himself and will make rookie mistakes, and that's forgivable. This is Rory McIlroy. He's the PGA Tour's ambassador. He is the front figure. He's the leading light for golf. He has been there. He's done it. He's bought the T-shirt. He's done this. He's done that. He shouldn't need a caddy to be able to hold him together anymore. Now, I think caddies, the experience of caddies and the value of caddies is vital in junior games when you can get it, and for rookies on tour as well. Up until maybe you've played, 40, 50 PGA Tour events. Then you need to be, it's an individual game, is golf, by and large, isn't it? It's an individual game of golf. Now, I don't think it matters who would have been on the bag. The caddy cannot help Rory McIlroy if he's going to miss a putt from 2.5 feet.
No. And to be fair, it's the same thing Ian said. Is the fact that the caddy can't be blamed for the two the short putts he missed during those last few holes or so. But obviously he does make the point of the fact that a good experienced caddy is key, and we will hear from an experienced caddy. So obviously it's interesting your point of view. Obviously we still want to preempt what Terry Mundy said, because obviously he talks about what he does with players and how we make sure that they do the right things on the golf course and they get themselves in the right way, kind of thing. And then he does talk about junior golf and how important it is for that. But
well, can I, before we get on with that, Steve, actually, because as ever, this is an interactive show, so tell us whether you agree with my opinion of it or whether you think I'm wrong. And tell me if I'm wrong. By the way, I'm not a professional golfer, so I don't know. I've never had a caddy, so. I'm only saying from what I look as a journalist from the outside in, thinking here's an experienced sports person here who a caddy will always help, will always benefit, of course, but they should be experienced enough now to be able to handle these situations. So whether you think I'm right or wrong, let us know. The comment section is open at Live Sport Now on YouTube. That's the best place to do it. Just comment in the live chat section. If you do, we can show your comment on screen. We can see them. There's a link in the text of this broadcast that will take you straight through there. Or you can just scan that QR code just above my finger right there. Scan that. Again, it will take you straight through to where this is playing on YouTube if you're not already there. Comment in that chat section so we can see it and we can pop it on screen and give you a shout out as well. Let us know your opinion. And if you hear anything from Terry during the videos that we're going to play out and want to have your say and give us something to discuss, please put them in the chat section at any point. We can see. We definitely want to hear from you. And if you are watching it Live Spot Now on YouTube, hit that little subscribe button as well. Steve.
Fantastic. Right, first things first then, let's do the junior golf news though. We'll start in Scotland. So the St Andrews Links Trophy. We've got the winner, got a photo of the winner. It was Seb Cave from Coxmoor Golf Club. He's actually a Warwickshire golfer, but he does represent Coxmoor, which is a Nottinghamshire club. Played on the new and the old course up at St Andrews. He shot 66 on the new course, 69 on the old course, then 75 on the old course, and then finished with a 71, won by 2 shots. Fantastic field, actually, because he finished ahead of Harley Smith and Callum Scott were both a couple of shots behind. And I think I'm right in thinking that gets him a step closer to actually qualifying to play in the Open Championship, which takes place at Royal Troon. They base it on, I think, on 3 amateur competitions. So well done to Seb for getting a little bit closer to playing at the top level. I think Seb's 19 years old. I think his birthday was the day after he won that. So that's a happy birthday present there for winning that as well.
Well done, mate.
And obviously a lovely photo there on the bridge on the 18th hole there. By the way, on the 18th hole there in his second round, he got a birdie on the 17th hole. And that, I think there'll be a few pros over the years who will settle for that on a birdie on the 17th hole.
I'll tell you what, the way I was striking the ball yesterday, Steve, I reckon I might have got a birdie there as well.
Yes. Yeah, I've heard from your caddy the fact that he's taking all the credit for that. But yeah. Right, staying in Scotland then. The Barry Douglas Scottish Junior Masters took place, won by Brodie Cunningham from Bothwell Castle, 71, 72, 70. And I'm not sure whether he won on countback or whether he had a playoff, but he finished ahead of Aidan Lawson from Bruntsfield. Aidan, though, did pick up the under-16s prize, so well done to Aidan for that. The girls' winner was Abigail May from St Reglas Ladies Golf Club, 73, 72, 77. Melissa Kay and Rosie Maguire were joint second there. The girls' net competition, I know you like me asking you a question, guess the score, and things like that.
Love it.
So Tara Simpson from Blair Gowrie won over 3 rounds. How many shots did she win by, Ian?
Sensible answer is like 2 or 3, but it's never sensible. So I'm going to say 11.
Not bad for you. 13 shots you won by. So net 69, net 63, net 75. I think she might even be more than 13 shots ahead going into that final round. Melissa Kay finished.
I'll get one right one day.
That's probably the closest you've ever been, actually, to be fair. So well done on that. Another competition which took place over in Sweden, the Annika Sorensen Invitational, was won by Louise Landgraf from France. We've got a photo of Louise.
Oh, yeah, we do. Sorry, you caught me off guard there.
Absolutely. and it's a person who has been mentioned on this podcast on a few occasions because she is a very, very talented and up-and-coming. She's one whereby this is a girl, look, she's already making a name for herself. So it's not one whereby we're suddenly like saying that's one to watch out for, because this is a person who a year ago, you might remember on the Progress Junior Golf podcast news, we told you about the fact that she became the youngest ever winner of the Ladies European Tour Access Series event. She also won the R&A under 16s amateur championship in April. So a girl who is in seriously good form, 69, 69, 73. She won by 2 shots from Molly Rowling. So well done to Louise. Faro Series future regional finals. All the regional finals have finished. There was one at Matford Hall, one at the Warwickshire, one at Brockett Hall. The final takes place at the Belfry. The best qualifiers, the one from Cumberwell Park was Archie Griffiths. He finished on 1 under par. Worsley Park was Jeremy Dew on 1 under par. But the best was at Sunningdale Heath. That was Jeff Johnson, 3 under par gross. So well done to Jake. And staying with the Faro Series, they've got a couple of events coming. Actually, they've got 3 events coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to 2 of them. You're gonna have to make a guess here. Which 2 out of these 3 do you think I'm going to? Then Ian? There's Isle of Purbeck, Latvia, or Sweden. Which of those 2 do you think I'm going to?
You're going to 2 of them.
Yes. So I'll give you a clue.
Sweden.
At least one of them is outside this country.
Yeah, definitely going to Sweden, I reckon. Oh, no. I think you're going to Latvia. I think you've told me you're going to Latvia. So I think you're going to Latvia.
Yes.
And Isle of Purbeck then.
Yes. So, yes, we will be doing a Progress Junior Golf podcast on the trip to Latvia. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop junior golf over in a country which is not, by any stretch of the imagination, renowned for its junior golf. So it'll be fascinating to see what they do with junior golf as well. Now, I mentioned Jeff Johnson, him on the British Junior Golf Tour. We're just going to mention a few of the order merit leaders because there's a lot of junior tours out there. He's actually leading one of the order merits of the British Junior Golf Tour. Some of the other leaders are William Lyons, Oliver Smith, Zachary Blaney, Hamza Marfleet, and Shane Cooper. Now, I specifically want to mention Shane Cooper because he's in the under 6 category. And I looked at his name on the score sheet, and it's not down as Shane Cooper. What do you think his name is down as, Ian?
So is it obvious? Should it be obvious?
No, not at all obvious.
Sure.
His name is down as the Showman Cooper.
Brilliant.
And I just think, wow. I mean,
golf needs personalities like that.
Absolutely. So that's an under 6-year-old who's already got his nickname when he turns pro in years to come. So well done to him. He's from Sheerness Golf Club down in Kent. Some of the other tours as well, they've got a lot of different age categories. So the Robert Rock Junior Golf Tour, for example, they've got 14 different categories of their order merit. The Northern Junior Golf Tour have got 22 different age categories. So I was going to read them out, but I just thought, geez, it's going to take us forever to try and read them all out, kind of thing. But there's obviously some.
We've only got an hour, Steve. Only got an hour.
Yes, that's it. Absolutely, yeah. I will read out the leaders though for the Junior Golf Scotland though. The 18-hole gross leader is Sabrina Wong. 18-hole net is Thomas Watson. The 9-hole Lewis Allen, and the flag competition. For those who are not aware what flag competition is, whereby they play over 9 holes and basically they take a flag out of them. How many shots they've had after? I think 50 shots normally. When they've reached their 50th shot, they stick a flag in the ground, and whoever's gone the furthest on the golf course, they win the competition. The leader of that competition is Greg McKillop. The Shires Junior Golf Tour, which is one which I'm heavily involved with, the 18-hole gross leader is Liam Greeno, 18-hole net is Harry Thomas, and the 9-hole is Harriet Swain. And I just want to mention as well that this weekend we've got an event for the Shires Junior Golf Tour at Seacroft in Skegness. It's a team event, and the winning team in that, they get the coaching clinic with Charlie Hull, which we, of course, did the podcast on this year. So
we need to get Charlie on this.
Well, we will do at some stage, yes.
He's too busy smoking.
Yes. Yes, I did see that. I thought, and she's the Shires Junior Golf Tour ambassador. I thought that's probably not something which we want to promote too much. So in her defence, her dad was a chain smoker and still is, kind of thing. So I suppose it's in the family. But anyway, Charlie's a fantastic ambassador for the Shires Junior Golf Tour. Just forget the fact that she's had a few cigarettes over.
She is. No,
right.
She is.
That wraps up the Junior Golf Tour. Go on then.
Just one thing, Steve. I just want to give a bit of a shout out, not really a junior anymore, but somebody whose career we've probably both been involved with for the last 3 or 4 years or so. Of course, I first broadcast her at the English Under-18s. She went on to win it. And then she went on to win the Sunningdale Foursomes. And since then, she's gone over to study at university in America, and she's absolutely ripping it up. Can I just say huge congratulations to Lottie Woad? She is the women's ranked #1 amateur in the world now. So Lottie Woad, congratulations. I know she's not sort of a junior anymore as such, but we've followed her through the junior ranks, and she's sort of been the star name, hasn't she, really, Steve, over the last sort of 10 years, I guess, from junior ranks moving up. What a future Lottie has. She's also a big Leeds United fan as well. So happy days.
Wow. So there's one good thing going for her there.
Yeah, her golf.
And actually, if you if you look at the amateur golf rankings over the years, there's been some seriously good players who've been #1 and then gone on to have a very, very successful. I think Lydia Ko is probably the most famous, and won a couple of majors. So
Lottie's going to follow it. I've had the privilege of following around with camera and microphone for probably 40 holes or so of a short career or so, but big tournaments as well. Sunningdale Foursomes in the English Under-18s Championship. So it's a big tournament, and she's just like steel in a really good way. She is like steel, and when you see players and they have these spells where they do really, really well, and then sort of drift away again. She's just constantly on it, and it's been that way for 5 or 6 years. So this is no flash in the pan. This is set. I mean, everybody would already know the name Lottie Woad, but I tell you, she's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Great, well done to her. Leonie Maguire was another former world #1 amateur as well. So
that's a good point.
And not a bad player to follow in the footsteps. Right, that wraps up the junior golf news. Then let's get on with the podcast. Let's get on with our special guest. And I interviewed him early this week. He was the caddy of Ian Poulter for many, many years. He does quite a little bit now, or I think he concentrates more on caddying for Sam Horsfield, but he's caddied with the latest European Tour pros as well. So he's caddied obviously, at all sorts of different levels. First question I asked him though was, how did he get into caddying? This is what he had to say.
I had three pro tournaments a year, which I used to go and watch. And I used to drink in a pub in Little Brickhill. and whenever there were tournaments, the players and caddies used the same pub, and I got to know them over a period of time. I think I was playing off one at the time myself. And one of the caddies got a bit of a shock phone call. I think his wife's dad had had a car accident or something, and he just had to leave. So I stepped in and took over, got to know a few people, then took the week off work the next year and worked for somebody. And then I was in the print business, and back then you could just leave a job on a Friday and you'd be starting again Monday. So it got to a point where I thought, I'm going to take 6 months here and go and see a bit of Europe and stuff, and then just come back and get another print job. And that was 35 years ago, and I never came back.
Just explain what a caddy does. I mean, that sounds a silly question, but what does a caddy do?
Well, obviously, you need to learn the golf course. You need to provide a yardage. You need to learn how to judge wind. Ideally, you're trying to tell a player what a certain shot is playing, how far it's playing, irrespective of the yardage, or where you want to pitch it and why, and stuff like that. And that did take quite a long time to learn. And you make mistakes as you go along. And a lot of them. And that's why you'll see, the best players employing the most experienced caddies, because they obviously have made all their mistakes and learnt as they've gone along, and they're benefiting from that experience. And I think that's what most players are looking for when they're hiring a professional caddy, is somebody who has basically got all those experiences. Maybe used to, the business end of tournaments a few times and stuff like that. So they know they've got somebody who's going to, remain calm and stuff when the pressure's on, as well as obviously providing the information. But generally, that's what you're doing. You're giving them a reason to hit a certain distance off certain tees and why you need to do that, and then the same into the greens. You're not always shooting at pins. You're sort of playing for areas on certain holes due to, it might be due to weather conditions or a pin placement or whatever, where you say, well, on this occasion, let's just play that there rather than being too aggressive. But it's getting that balance right and trying to get around there, in as few shots as possible.
So that's Terry Mundy explaining how we first got into caddying. Obviously, you've done a lot of media coverage as well. Presumably, when you've been covering your tournament, sometimes you have spoken to the caddies, have you?
Yeah, a lot of the time. Funny enough, I did the Trilby Tour last Monday up at Killick Percy, just outside York, and they have caddies. And they're usually, it's a bit less pressurised, of course, Trilby Tour. It's an amateur event. There's still prizes and things up for grabs, and still qualification for the grand final. But people are a little bit more cheery and happy to talk. And of course, when we've done a lot of junior events, Steve, certainly the Faldo Series days, a lot of the caddies were parents, weren't they? So they're always usually quite happy to have a little chat. But it's interesting how we got involved. I just think things have changed now, haven't they? I can't imagine, we just go down, everybody drinks down at the same pub, and so I just got into it that way. You know what I mean? I was decent at golf, and I was just down a pub one day, and it just lucked into it, really, which is not, good on Terry, by the way, because he knows his stuff. And like I said, he was off one himself, so he knew his way around a golf course. Like, I couldn't be a professional caddy because I'm not good enough at golf. Do you know what I mean? Who am I to give advice to somebody who's a better golfer than me? So I think things have changed a little bit, and I actually think caddying is probably, it's more of a it's perhaps more of a career than maybe it used to be as well. I don't know if you maybe agree with that.
Yeah, well, Terry mentioned as much there. Right, well, actually, one of the next questions I asked Terry was, we'll delve a lot more deeper into this then. What actually does a caddy do? What's a typical tournament day then? What does it involve? This is what he had to say.
Get there, if we had a noon tee, about 2.5, 3 hours before the tee time. And I'd get a pin sheet. We were always provided with a pin sheet for the day with the pin locations. And I would sit and go through the book for half an hour with a cup of coffee or something like that, and plan out what pins are accessible and what ones are, maybe to be steered clear of, or where you want to be on those particular holes. So I'll do that, get a bit of breakfast or whatever, and then normally meet the player somewhere in the region of an hour to an hour and a half before the tee time, where they go through he'll have already done a sort of a proper warm up, whether it be a gym session or a session with bands in the locker room or whatever, to get everything moving. And essentially, you're just going out on the course, on the range, just to hit a few balls, get yourself ready for the day, and then head out on the golf course and hopefully, get off to the start of a good round. But I think a lot of people see a tee time at 8:10 and think that we arrive about 7:30, but no, that's not the case. If you've got an 8:10 tee time, we'll all be there by 6 o'clock in the morning at the very latest.
Now, I asked the question there, what would you do on the day? But of course, and you alluded to it there, is the fact that you're looking at pin positions. You're already thinking about where you would aim for flags and that. So that doesn't start on the day, does it? That starts. When does that start? When does that process of looking at a tournament and looking at what you want to do in that tournament, when does that start?
Well, that will start on a Monday and Tuesday when you arrive. Normally, I'd like to walk the 18 holes on my own without the player at all. Especially on a course that I'm not familiar with. And look for, the wide areas off a tee, the safest areas, whether you can hit, whether a hole's driver or not. Can we carry this bunker? Do we need to be short of that bunker? Whatever it might be from the tee. Check off a few yardages, normally do that. Make sure that's all good. Then get up to the green and start to just look around the green and what's there. Is there water left? Is there a bunker there? And if so, is that bunker okay to be in, or is that a particularly difficult bunker shot? It might be that, to a front right pin, that bunker's absolutely fine to be in, but to a back left pin, it's a desperately difficult shot. So you take those sort of notes. Well, if the pin's back there, I'm going to get him to go right at this pin, because if we catch that bunker, that's it's landing on a downslope, it can't stop it, it's over in the rough or whatever it might be. And that's the sort of information that, you wouldn't be telling a player while you're playing, oh, make sure you don't go in that bunker, it's desperately difficult, or anything like that. But what you would say is, we need to be right at this pin. We don't really need to go at this pin. 4 yards right at the pin, that's a perfect spot, and we putt across from there. So you sort of, I guess you're thinking negatively, but trying to deliver a positive way of actually playing the hole. You won't see caddies standing on tee saying, oh, be careful, it's out of bounds down the left, and then there's you frighten the life out of a player. We know where the trouble is, but you tell them where you do want to be.
And also, you mentioned there about you walk a course and you look at a course and you try and look at spots, but also you don't necessarily walk the course from tee to green. Sometimes you walk backwards, don't you, and work your way backwards from a hole. How important is that?
I don't think once you know what you're doing, it doesn't really matter. But sometimes the benefit of walking it backwards is, you'll start, let's say, at the 18th green, and then you'll just walk back to a spot where you think, well, if my ball was here, this is perfect. This spot's perfect. And then you would, get the yardage from the tee to that spot. So, if you've got a player that hits it 300 yards, but that spot's 275, and, there's no reason to go down another 25 yards, because, in fact, it could make the shot more difficult being closer. You would just take those notes. Do you know what I mean? And you can sometimes see it a little bit clearer from when you're looking at the shot that you want for your second shot, rather than looking at the tee and where you want that. That can sometimes be more difficult than just knowing, no, if we just did it, 275 yards at, the roof of that building out there, because I'll always lay something down in the fairway that points at the tee, and then go around the other side, take a look at it to get a line off the tee. And yeah, you'll say if you hit it 275 right at that, that's going to leave you, 80 front, and wherever the pin is, that's a nice yardage. So that'd be your note on that hole, and then obviously you just you do that 18 times.
So that's Terry talking about not necessarily looking at the golf course from tee to green, but also sometimes walking backwards. I mean, these are the things that obviously this is a junior podcast, and you'd hope the juniors are watching this and going, actually, that's something I'd never even considered. There'll be top amateur golfers who wouldn't even thought of it that way, wouldn't there?
What I like best there, Steve, when he said the caddy actually looks at the negative, but never delivers it that way to the player. The caddy is the one who's allowed to be like, oh, we don't want to go there, we don't want to do this, what not to do. So you almost take that stress away from the player, and you say to the player, right, I know what's bad, here's what's good, and here's what you're going to do. So you get rid of all that negative energy away from them to suddenly think, okay, here's what we're going to do. And it's almost like, we know there's trees left and right, so forget that. We're not even looking at it, we're not even concerning ourselves with that. We know where we're going to go, and players aren't stupid. Like Rory McIlroy will be stood on the tee, and he'll know where out of bounds is, but it won't even feature on his radar, will it? But if a caddy were to go up to him and say, "Oh, don't hit it left because out of bounds," suddenly it would feature on his radar a little bit, and what wasn't there a minute ago suddenly is there. And even though it's miles away, and he's good enough to avoid it by a million miles away, 2% of doubt might have just crept in, which could be the difference, couldn't it?
And that's what you need from an experienced caddy. And this is the point I raised to Terry when I was talking about, in particular, someone like the US Masters. Mentioned he's been there with Ian Poulter. How important it is, because the point I raised with Terry was that I said there aren't too many rookies who do very well at the US Masters. You mentioned Aberg this year, who did very well on his debut, but that doesn't happen too often. This is what he had to say on that point in particular about using an experienced caddy at Augusta in particular.
I think the reason that probably happens at Augusta is the severity of the greens there. And even though you can tell somebody, this putt's really quick, or this putt breaks 3 times as much as you think it does, and this, that, and the other, I think the reason you don't see the rookies, I think that's changing a little bit, but the reason in the past you haven't seen the rookies do so well is that sort of side of it is down to the player. The players need to, once they've been there 2 or 3 years and they've been in certain spots on those greens, I mean, it is unbelievable sometimes how soft you need to hit a putt or how much break you need to hit on a certain putt. And sometimes you can't do that all in 1 or 2 practice rounds. The benefit, the experience of the caddies really on that is the guys that have been there a lot, they really know not so much where you want to hit it, they know where you don't miss it. There's certain areas on that golf course where if you miss it there, it's an auto bogey. It's very, very difficult to get up and down from. So I think that on a course like that, the caddy experience is more about, look, we need to be here, not here. This is why, and But those greens, they just need to be learned. They need to be learned by the players, and that sometimes they get it very quickly, and sometimes it'll take a player, 2 or 3 times until he's got a good handle on them greens. It's the course off the tee at Augusta is not too difficult. It's a second shot golf course is where you need to be strong to do well there.
And let's flip it the other way around. What about when you turn up at a golf course whereby you and your player never played before? Perhaps it's a tournament whereby no one has really ever played there before, in the sense of it's a completely new venue. How do you look at that?
Like I said before, I would go out and walk 18 holes. I would come in on, say, a Monday. We would go out there on a Tuesday. I would tell him what I've seen. We would play a practice round, and then, I would like to think for the most part a player would be in agreement, but now and again they'll say, no, I don't quite like hitting it here. I'd rather get it down there and take my chance off the tee to make the second shot easier. Or, and between you could have perhaps agreed to change that game plan a little bit. But Yeah, all you can do is learn how that golf course should be played, and let's be honest, it gets played different from different players. You know, if you're working for somebody that can carry the ball 330 yards, you've got totally different lines and clubs off tees than a player that it's 290. It's a different golf course essentially. So you see a course through that player's particular yardages or shot shape. Sometimes some players predominantly draw it, some predominantly fade it, and you will see a course very differently than others. So you can only come up with your game plan. And then normally what you would do is stick to that game plan for a Thursday and Friday and see where it where you're sitting, where it lies, and maybe change it at the weekend if you feel that perhaps you're sitting a bit further back, line 30th or something like that, and you go, okay, time to take some chances at the weekend. We'll get a bit more aggressive, maybe hit a few more drivers off tee where we didn't, and take some chances to leave shorter irons, to make more birdies, to try and get up the leaderboard. But generally, those first 2 days, you will come up with a game plan and try and stick to that.
What about the form of a player? Because I mean, you've worked with lots of different players, and you've worked with the likes of Ian Poulter, obviously at the very top of the game. You've worked with players, Challenge Tour level. You work with ladies European Tour players. So you've worked with different players. And how much do you look at form and go, actually, at this present moment in time, you have to be a little bit more,
Sure.
careful on some holes or something like that, whereby if you know a player's in form, they're playing well, you can go, actually, let's go with a little bit more of an attacking game plan for you.
Yeah, if a player's in form, you definitely tend to play a bit more aggressively, and a player will know when they're out of form that, look, I'm quite got it at the minute, so let's try and get this, let's try and get this round in as few shots as possible, perhaps not take so many chances, and on those occasions, they'll just continue to work until they do find it. So they'll get in off the course, go straight back to the range, and keep working until they go, okay, I've got this now. I am in form. Play and practice their way into form. But yeah, you've got to be a bit sensible if you're out of form. Both player and caddy would know, the certain dangers. Normally, if you're out of form, it's because there's one particular miss that's coming a lot. So you would certainly guard against that on certain holes if that particular miss put you in a lot of trouble.
Okay.
I mean, why take the chance if it's not? It's a bit silly, isn't it? You're bringing big numbers into play, and essentially what we're trying to do is keep the big numbers off of scorecards.
It's fascinating, isn't it, hearing from him and how he has to deal with players who hit the ball different ways, different distances, players who are in form, out of form. I mean, that relationship is crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a very good point to make as well, isn't it? Because it's a different course. Like I played yesterday. I just played with my old man and a friend of his, and off the first tee, I hit a nice shot. Actually, it was just it was on the fairway, but it was to the right hand side, and my dad hit it left into the rough. So I'm on the right, just on the fairway. He's on the left, in the rough, close to some trees. It's a completely different course. We're looking at different areas, completely different. It's not like a football pitch is a football pitch. The goal stays where it is, and you have your position, and you're roughly always in that position. Or motorsport, everybody's basically trying to hit the apex, which is always the same point. So you're always roughly going to be there. The golf course, there could be 50, 60 yards between players. It's a huge gap, and it completely transforms the way that you play it. And it got me thinking when he was sort of talking about certainly Augusta and relationships with players, and just thinking, because it's a shame he's not here live, because I'd love to sort of ask him some of the difficult questions, in a sense of, be honest with us. I believe McIlroy's caddy's coming for a bit of stick because Rory missed those putts, and it's like, how responsible can he be for that? Could he have put his arm around it? Could he have just calmed him down and slowed him down before doing it, or whatever? I don't know. But equally, think from the caddy side of things as well. We all think, oh, it's terrible for Rory. It's terrible for Rory. The caddy gets paid a damn sight less than Rory. So Rory missing those two putts,
okay.
It's probably cost him about 100 grand, though, hasn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Rory, the player, missing those two putts has cost his caddy £100,000. They work together. They're a team, of course. However, it's a unique sort of team in a sense of if we are a team, but you get paid 90% and I only get paid 10%, but we both still have to basically walk the course together, and my responsibility is 30% and your responsibility is 70% because you've got to play all the shots. There's a disparity there, isn't there, between what I'm getting paid for what I'm contributing to you. Do they get frustrated with the player as well? Because we know players get annoyed with caddies. We've seen it numerous times, haven't we, with numerous players who've turned around and had a go at their caddy, when actually has the caddy actually got a right to be like, how the hell did you miss that? Do you know what I mean? Like, you've just cost me thousands of dollars because you missed that putt. You shouldn't be missing that. You know, I've set you up perfectly and you've missed it. You know?
Yeah. Right. Let's talk about that caddy player relationship then. Actually, just before we go on to talk about the caddy relationship, as far as this podcast is concerned, I get paid 90% and you get paid 10%. That's the agreement.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's it.
Zero.
Yeah, 90% to zero, and you get 10% to zero. But anyway, that's another story. Right, caddy player relationship. Then this is what Terry had to say about how important it is to have a really good relationship with your player.
Can be developed, but I think you tend to know pretty quickly when you work with someone new if you're going to get on with them from a personality aspect. You know, you know you've got to like each other. You've got to get on. At the end of the day, you're spending a lot of time out there, so you know it could be a very good player and a very good caddy, but if personality wise they just don't quite get on, then that may be a reason that particular relationship, you know, doesn't work. So yeah, I think you gotta like each other's company. I think that helps because most of the time on the golf course, you're not talking about golf. You know, you'll only talk about golf a few seconds before, you know, well, basically when the pre-shot routine starts, when you start to get a yardage, you might be talking about football. You might be, you know, pretty much talking about anything but golf from walking off the tee to getting to the ball. So yeah, you've got to enjoy each other's company, and that sort of takes your mind away, or takes the player's mind away a bit from, you know, just too much golf. They don't really want that. They, you know, that they live, eat, and breathe that. So they'd be, I would imagine, looking for a you know, some different conversations. So yeah, you've got to get along. But then obviously once you do get to the ball, it's all about the golf and the serious stuff starts. And you know, between the two of you, you agree on, you know, what a certain yardage is playing and where you want to pitch it, and you know, you select the club that goes that far, and hopefully you're getting it right most of the time.
This was the part of the interview whereby I went, it starts to become really relevant for junior golf, because I've watched a lot of junior golf. You've watched a lot of junior golf. We've seen parents, caddies. The bit where he said, we don't talk about golf until we get to the ball. That's the bit whereby I see that on a golf course, whereby from the moment they've hit the tee shot, the kid, to the time they get the ball, the dad or normal parent or caddy or whatever is going in their head, you shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing that kind of thing. Whereby that was the bit where I went spot on. They don't, do they? They just don't talk about. They talk about, you know, I mentioned earlier about Poulter being a big Arsenal fan. I think Terry might be an Arsenal fan as well. I'm guessing that's probably what they talk about pretty much, well, 90% of the time when they're on the golf course. But
it probably helps you play better, doesn't it? And this is where I think sometimes perhaps parents don't necessarily make particularly good caddies, and not intentionally. You know, you would never do it intentionally, of course. But, you know, I'm a father myself, and if I was going around, I would want my son to hit the best shot that he possibly could. And if he didn't hit it, I feel that I would probably then say, well, do you know what you did wrong there? And that wouldn't be the right thing to do at all, would it? Because it would just be, Terry said it, I think, in the second video, didn't he? Where he said, it's my job to look at all the negatives, and it's my job to be worst case scenario, but then it's my job to deliver to the player all the positives. Do you know what I mean? So he's like the sponge for all the negativity, so it doesn't then go to the player. Whereas I think when parents are caddies for juniors, it's very easy to be like, oh, you didn't quite hit that as well as you could, so next time this is what you get. When actually what you need to do, it's like, right, okay, we're in this position, this is where we are, excellent stuff, let's just walk to the ball, let's just chill out, have a nice little walk, oh, it's nice weather today, isn't it? Get to the ball, right, how are we going to play this? And forget it, because if a junior's hit a bad shot, or any of us, we know, last thing we need is somebody going, well, do you know what you did wrong there? Because all you want to, you know what it's like when somebody tells you, it's like, I know I did wrong, I don't need telling. I get it. But maybe when we get to the next tee, we could then say, right, we remember what happened before. Let's make sure we make this one a clean one, and just go from there.
Right, we are going to talk a lot more with Terry about junior golf in particular and caddying. But just finally, though, because he did start talking about there, but obviously the caddy comes into his own when they get to the ball. So this is what they actually have to do, and this is really what a caddy does, and this is how, and this is fascinating. It's a long answer to this, but I asked him about what a caddy actually does when they get to the golf ball. This is what he had to say.
So you arrive at the golf ball. I would go off and get the yardage. So I would pace from the ball to a certain distance that I know the front of the green is. So there may be, say, a sprinkler down there that's 150 front. I'm 11 behind it. So I come back. You got 161 front, pins on 20, 181 to the pin. Then you would discuss where you want to actually pitch that golf ball. It might be 181 pin, but if the greens are firm and it's a bit downwind, you'd probably be looking to pitch that maybe 65, 70. If it's soft and a bit into the wind, you'd be flying that all the way to 81. So straight away, there's a sort of 15, 16 yard difference in where you're landing it, right there. So you agree on where you want to pitch it. Then you look at the wind and decide what that number's actually playing. So, you might have 181 pin, but the green, let's say, slopes away a little bit, or when the ball lands, it's going to release. And then you had a bit of downwind in there. So you might say, well, I only want to land this 168. And there's 12 a help. So that's playing 156. So you might have 181 pin, but you're hitting a 156 shot. But it ends up going 181. or maybe close to it. It may be that you want to be just under the pin, So I'll pitch this at 68 and stop it at, 78, 3 yards short of a back pin. And that 68 is playing, you've worked out it's playing 56. What do I hit? 156. Oh, that's my 9-iron. You hit the 9-iron and hopefully it pitches somewhere near the 56 and you get the release you want or whatever it is, and yeah, you sort of learn, you do all this in the practice rounds really, and you will know that this green releases more than this green. This green's higher and it's firmer. This green's right down in the low area and is shaded by all these trees, so it's a lot softer. And these are all the little notes you make, so that come Thursday, you know what the ball's going to do within reason on the greens.
I mean, it's just that one answer there. You've got a lot of technical information there, and like you say, you do a lot of in the practice round. So when you get there, but how important is it to not make it too technical for the player in the sense of trying to simplify it to the point whereby you do all that in your brain and then you go, I think it's 175, or you give them a couple of options.
Hopefully what I just explained, I would hope to a professional golfer anyway, is actually quite simple. It's 181 pin. We want to pitch it 68. There's some help off the right, so that 68's playing 56. And you need to start this, 3 or 4 yards right of the pin for that win. So land it 156. And then if you're telling that to a player, they straight away start thinking, okay, I want to hit a 150. And players know, you know, at that level, they know how to hit a 156 shot. But if they hit what they think is a 156 shot and it actually pitches 150 or 162, they'll be quick to let you know you got that wrong. You know?
I suppose that and that's the bit whereby the communication, the getting on with each other, the trust. I suppose that's the key part, isn't it? Trust, the fact that they trust you and vice versa.
Yeah, they need to trust you, but they also, you know, that it's in their interest to be honest too, because if they start telling you, well, no, I hit that 9 good and it only pitched 150, instead of 156, then, you know, you could be on the next hole and make another mistake because, you know, in fact, that 9 wasn't absolutely flush perfectly. And, you know, so it does help if you've got a player that will say to you, hey, listen, I didn't quite catch that one, that I could have got a few more out of that. You go, okay, we were right then. You know, the 56 was about right. So that is about 12 a wind. And then the next hole may be in the same direction. And you know that your 12 a wind was about right. Whereas if he says to you, look, I really did, I flushed that and it's only gone 150, you can say, well, there's not that much wind then. So perhaps we were five out with a win there. And if the next hole's in the same direction, instead of saying 12, you'd say, well, it's probably about 7 then. Do you see what I mean? So you're sort of learning, you know, you're learning sometimes even, it might even be that you're as deep as Saturday into a tournament and you've got a certain win that you haven't had all week. And those first few holes, you are judging, you know, how strong is that and what exact direction is that from? And that might take you 2 or 3 holes until you got a handle on that.
And the communication we mentioned there about, you know, sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes the you know, you might be slightly out with the yardage and they'll come back to you and say, you know, that was wrong, you got it wrong, kind of thing. How important then is it to calm the player down if that is the case, because they're angry, and obviously an angry golfer is not going to do any good for you or the player as they're going round. How important is it for you as the caddy to be the person who can calm them down?
Yeah, of course. That's, you know, you're playing a few roles out there, aren't you? You're psychologist, come caddy, come coach, come everything at times on a golf course, because once it all starts, at the end of the day, there is only the two of you out there. So, you know, you've got to communicate well with each other, and you know, it's important that, like I said, you put your hand up and go, listen, I've misjudged that wind, or I thought that would release and it didn't, got that wrong, you know. Come on, do us a favour, let's make a solid par, you know, 2-putt this for us and let's get on the next, you know. And you just keep it, you try and keep it simple, and you don't want to be out there. Nobody wants to be out there ranting and raving. There's not much good golf comes when that's happening.
So that's Terry Mundy talking. I mean, I just love that, Ian. The detail he goes into when he's talking to the players, the relationship he needs to have, the communication, the bit where he said, I'm a coach out there, I'm a psychologist, I'm a caddy. You know, what was your take on that?
It's so much more caddying, isn't it, than just carrying a bag. Really, you know, to the outside looking in, if you don't really know golf, you just think, well, a caddy's just somebody who holds the bag because the golfer can't be bothered. Do you know what I mean? but it's really not, and that's really actually insulting to a caddy, isn't it? Because Terry and caddies, they really, really do know their stuff. And I wonder, I'd like to sort of talk to a player. Somebody like Charlie Hole would be great to talk to. You know, somebody, and Chris Hansen actually would be good. We get him on and find out how much do they actually rely on their caddy and the knowledge that they bring, not just of the course, but of the game as well. Because, you know, I am sure that the player does a lot of their own research too, but a caddy also goes to the next level. They also get paid if the player makes the cut. So there's an income to be made as well. But how much does the player rely on their caddy? I bet there's been some golfers out there, like, you know, the old John Daly's, who probably do no work beforehand whatsoever and just turn up and just be like, I'll leave it to my caddy and, you know, tell me where to go. Because, you know, golf for me is, right, first tee, if it's a par 4 or par 5, it's driver every time. There's the flag, just hit it that way. But for these pros, it's so different. It's almost a different game, isn't it? The research and the time and the effort that goes into it is quite remarkable. And it's a bit of an art form, to be honest, isn't it? Being a caddy, I think it's very much, it's like a team in motorsport when it comes to pit stops. You know, you often hear the driver says, well, it's the team, you know, it's not just me, it's all about the team as well. And actually it's really true, because I sometimes thinking what they should do in Formula One is the driver should have to then get out and do the wheels and stuff like that, and you know, sit at a pump refueling it and then go into the kiosk and pay for it on a card and then come out and get back in as quick as they can. But sometimes, and it might be a little bit controversial, this, Steve, but sometimes before listening to Terry, by the way, and this isn't, this is just listening to the knowledge and the depth that he has, but I've sometimes often thought that perhaps pro golf shouldn't have caddies and it should squarely be solely on the player. Maybe a caddy could, you know, they could have somebody to hold a bag, because as we know, the benefits of, you know, the negativity physically of carrying a bag around a golf course is you know, not particularly
We'll give
great.
them a trolley. We'll let them push a trolley.
Yeah, give them a trolley or something. But I've thought, maybe they should do away with caddies and make it solely about the player. But then when you listen to Terry and the numbers, the mathematics, the judging, the wins, the directions, the knowledge that you have to have, actually it's quite a lot for a player to then to have all of that and then go play the shot as well. It's opened my eyes a little bit, actually.
Now, obviously, Terry Mundy is one of the best caddies in the world. He's caddied for some of the best players in the world. This is a junior golf podcast. Now, the reason why I wanted to get Terry on as well, because not only that, but he's also a dad. And he's a dad of a junior golfer, a 12-year-old girl golfer as well. So I wanted to talk to him about junior golf and his daughter, and also junior tours and the use of caddies as well. This is what he had to say about being a parent of a golfer and how he's helped his daughter's golf. Fascinated this.
Letting her, trying to get her course management a little bit better and when to take certain shots. And of course, it's very different from what a 12-year-old golfer that plays off, 20 handicap would take on, as opposed to a professional. So it's a sort of different set of rules. But trying to help again, keeping big numbers off of the scorecard and playing the shot that she's capable of, rather than the one that she's seen on TV. So I've tried to help her a little bit with her course management, but I've also tried, and so has my wife, who is a professional golfer, we've tried to sort of stay away a lot as well. She gets coaching from the head pro at my club, so we don't get involved with how she's swinging the golf club or what she's doing, because experience has shown us that doesn't work. In fact, the opposite is true. It's that's to your detriment. It just whether it's that children don't really want to listen to the parents. You can say the same thing to her as a coach would. She's just more likely to listen to the coach than she is mum and dad on those certain things. But she knows her mum's been a professional golfer. She knows her dad's a professional caddy. So she does use us now and again, and she will listen. But for the most part, we like to just send her out, have fun, enjoy the game, but remember this little set of rules here, or remember, what I told you about that shot. Why don't you do it like that? It's safer, it's easier, or whatever it might be. So she takes those things on board, but generally I like to just walk around and watch and stay out of the way.
And how easy is it to do that, though? There's the difficult
Oh God,
question.
there are times when you think, oh my God, what are you doing? But I think it's important to let them make the mistakes, and then you come in and we'll have a chat about them when she gets in. I might say, I'm trying to think of maybe there's a hole over water and it's 160 yards over water, and she's tried to hit a rescue club over the water, and it might be a hole where she's got a shot on and all that, and she'll hit, and I'll say to her, why did you take that on? Because that was your very best, utility club to get over the water. Any miss was going to bring a big number into play, but you had the opportunity where you could have gone, short of the water on the green, 2 putts, take your, bogey net par or par net birdie, whatever it might have been, and move on. But at the same time, I do want her to take certain stuff on in certain situations as well, because ultimately, if you're going to end up playing the game for a living, you are going to have to take, stand up and hit some shots. But even pros won't take, if you're playing a par 5 and a pro hits a 3-wood, let's say 260 yards, 270 yards, well, 260, let's say they hit 260. If you said to a pro, you got 258 over the water, he's not going to hit it, because he knows he could miss it by 2 yards, and that goes in the water, and then he's got to take a drop. Now he's bringing 7 into play. He'll lay up and leave himself a wedge. There's a certain, it's normally, I would say, it's probably around 12, 15 yard misses that at the very top level you allow for. So if they're doing that at the very top level, they're allowing themselves to, well, if I do miss it, or maybe there's a, if I catch a gust of wind, if that just gusts a little bit, this is struggling, they will refuse it, lay it up, and give themselves a chance the other way. Whereas, so that's the sort of thing I'm talking about, is just trying to, get the management right on what's aggressive and what's actually a bit silly.
Brilliant, isn't it? What he says about what he does with his daughter. This is a guy who knows his golf, knows how to go around a golf course, but at the same time, and he admits it's not easy, but he can take a step back, and that's the kind of thing whereby it's, if he can do it, me and you who know next to nothing about golf, and we take our son or daughter out on the golf course, we've got no right to turn around to them and say you should be hitting this shot and things like that, because we don't know.
No, but
he can
we do. But actually, maybe it's easier though for Terry, who's caddied at the very top with the very best, and who's also a very good golfer as well, because he sees players of an elite quality up close and personal regularly. So he probably looks at his daughter and thinks, you need to make mistakes in order to be better, and you need to learn the course. We'll help you to an extent, but if I basically tell you where to go and what to do and what shots to play and how to play, I'm not really helping you. Do you know what I mean? Like he said it there as well, didn't he? It's like, if you want to be a player, you want to be a professional player, you're going to have to take risks. You're going to have to play some good shots if you want to make it to the very top. So you're going to have to sometimes get out your comfort zone. I did like what he was saying about, if you hit the 3 with 260, for example, and it's 258 just over the water, so the pro won't go for it. And I was having a giggle to myself, because I would go for it. And I know it's the wrong thing to do, but I'm thinking, yeah, if I hit this bang on, I'm over. I'm going for it. Now, realistically, the chances of me hitting it bang on at my level of golf is probably I'd say 65% chance of me hitting it flush every single time. Do you know what I mean? Like there's maybe
optimistic.
Yeah, but I'm going in front of the ball and I'm thinking, right, for me to hit this the best that I can hit it, and you do it at a range, don't you? You'll do it at a range 7 out of 10 times. When you're out on the course, it's probably more like 60%, maybe even less, actually, to be fair, when you're on the course.
Closer to 6%, but there you go, carry on. Yeah.
There's a big chance of me getting it wrong, but I'm still going to do it. And I know that I'm probably, and actually when I say 65%, you're probably right. It's probably more like 35% on the course, isn't it? I've probably got a 70% chance of nailing it on the driving range, 35% chance on the course, but I'm still going to do it. And I'll get it wrong 6 out of 10 times. But the 4 times I get it right, oh my God, I'm the greatest golfer in the world. The other 6 times I've got to go pick my ball out of the water. But
Yeah. Yes, and brings, like, as Terry mentioned there, brings the 7 into play if it's a par 5 or whatever. But no, fascinating him talking about how he deals with his daughter then. Now, one of the things which we mentioned right away from the start is there are some junior tours out there which do have caddying, so I ought to mention those. So the Shires Junior Golf Tour, they've introduced it this year. The British Junior Golf Tour do it. I think the US Kids have done it. The Fowler Series might do it at a lower level, perhaps not quite so much with the elite level, because obviously they're, in theory, they should be good enough to go out there. You've done the England in under 18 championship, and they have policies, not just England, but national championships, whereby, as far as spectators are concerned, you're not allowed within 30 yards of them. And that, so it's from one extreme to the other, whereby you can get, if you don't have caddying at that level. So it's different tours.
Unfair then? Are the pros getting a leg up?
Well, possibly, yeah. And I know of amateurs, and you will do as well. I know of amateurs who've got through to, let's say, Open Championship qualifying, and they're up against, they almost have to bring their mate along to caddy for them. Well, as we've alluded to earlier, actually it might be helpful because they can have a chat with them about, what you're doing down the pub later or whatever. Did you watch the football last night? Whereas the pros caddy might not be doing that type of thing. So it might actually help them in that instance, but yeah, you might have a point there in the sense that the amateurs are at a disadvantage to the pros. Right. Just finally though, this is what I mentioned to Terry about caddies being allowed at junior events. This is the advice that he had for anyone who is caddying for junior golfer at these competitions.
See, I've only got 6 videos. I don't have another one.
Okay.
Sorry, mate.
Okay. Well, his advice.
Sorry about that.
Okay. That's all right. Well, his advice was basically don't get involved, which is pretty much what he alluded to earlier, in the sense of just stand back, try not to get too involved, and basically just let them hit the shots and things like that. Perhaps if we play this on Sunday, we might find the video and we might actually play it, kind of thing. But no, I mean,
I've only got 6. You only sent me 6.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So I promise, Terry, you did give some advice. Well, actually, we'll put that out on the Progress Junior Golf website. So if anyone wants any advice,
we'll put it on social media as well. Send it to me. We'll put it on social media.
Absolutely, yes. But yeah, no, I mean, look, fascinating talking to Terry and his experience of being a caddy at the highest level, and also his advice about what he does with junior golfers at a different level. And yeah, look, I hope you enjoyed the podcast this evening. We have got some more podcasts coming up. We mentioned earlier, probably going to be doing one on Latvia or international golf. We've done those types of things before. We're doing one on facilities as well at golf courses, which I think will be interesting because it's all one goal talking about playing on a golf course, but you need to have the right facility to get the juniors to enjoy. I don't know, what's the hardest golf course you've ever played on?
Probably the red course in the Berkshire was quite tough for my level.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I played on that golf course, and my 2 playing partners both had an eagle on one hole.
Oh, really? I didn't. What made it?
Yeah, I had a 7, so my score was twice theirs combined. But there you go. So, but yeah, so we're doing one facilities. We're going to do ones on rules quiz as well. We did the rules quiz previously. Now, something which I won't go into details now. We'll actually cover it in more detail when we get round to it. But things have cropped up in recent weeks whereby I've been involved in events whereby cheating has been mentioned in junior golf. And it's something whereby, we want to keep the rules one a little bit light-hearted, but at the same time, it's a subject which we do need to talk about, because obviously it's something whereby, and one instance whereby it probably was cheating. In fact, there's no probably about it. It was out and out cheating. And then the other occasion, it was one whereby just kids getting the scores wrong, inadvertently, whereby, but they could have got accused of cheating, and it's one whereby trying to avoid those scenarios, and bringing the rules, doing a bit of the quiz about that will hopefully help. But at the same time, it's something which obviously we do need to go into a little bit more details on. And we're probably going to do one on sponsorship and one on junior golf clothing as well. But there's lots more to come over the weeks and months ahead. We've not quite broken Aaron's record for the longest podcast we've ever had, but we've managed to go more than our 60 minutes.
Can I just say good luck to Aaron as well? I saw him last Monday. He joined me at York for the Trilby Tour, so go back and watch that. It's really good. We've got Springs coming up as well on the Monday the 15th of July, but we'll have another episode of this before that anyway. But he is doing open qualifying, so best of luck, Aaron.
Absolutely, yes. Best of luck with that. Right, and don't forget, if you want a caddy, Ian's there if you need a caddy to caddy for you.
Just go for it. Put out driver, go for it.
Yes. Don't use Ian as a caddy. You might learn a little bit in this podcast, but I still wouldn't use him as a caddy. Right. Hope you've enjoyed the show this evening. We shall see you very shortly on the Progress Junior Golf Podcast. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for watching.